Welcome back to Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm dear darling, as you see what's going on our lovely island of Fawnhallow today. We'll be relaxing as per usual. So yeah, what's happening, what's chilling? I'm gonna play some D&D later today. Baiting all my friends once again by the fact that the Animal Crossing episode. Sorry, I decided now is a good time to charge my mouse, so you can hear the sound. Yes, I decided it was a good time to bait all my friends into thinking that the Animal Crossing episode is talking about D&D. It's not. It's before. So, hello everyone. Right now in Fawnhallow at 6:04 PM on Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025. I'm not sure there'll be actually much to say about this D&D session, to be perfectly honest, because it's what I think is going to happen is rather low-key, to be honest. It's more like an introduction to things, and I assume it's going to be mostly role-playing, unless no one feels like role-playing today from that group, which would be, certainly a first. But yeah. Wait, hold on. Where's my thing gone? I have no idea what you just said. Team told me. Hopefully it wasn't important. St. Class of January? Is that something new? I don't think there's something new, but yeah, it'll be relatively low-key. Did I remember to title whatever episode's coming out today of another craft session? I'm pretty sure I did, yes, and you know what? I remember doing so. But I'll at least double check Discord just to make sure it worked. That's something. And there's messages I need to reply to on Discord, but I'm falling behind. Yeah, what should we talk about though? I don't really know. Anything going on r/games? I suppose recently. What are people talking about? I did watch another Game Maker's Toolkit's interesting sort of breakdown on was it like what it takes to make a Smash character, a Smash Bros character, which I found interesting, and it's not anything like particularly crazy because it's all I mean, the knowledge itself is particularly crazy, but it's all knowledge that you could presumably get from Sakurai's YouTube channel, just sort of distilled down and concentrated into a more digestible format because it's the one specifically to do with Smash Bros. I don't know necessarily. It's more of a collation of information, I suppose, rather than one of his own invention, which is fair because I don't think he's made a cross-platform. Not cross-platform, like a crossover fighter, is that what they're called? Platform fighter? I don't know. Anyway, it was very fascinating. Read see the decisions that go into it, and if anything, it kind of makes me reflect because Sakurai, if you don't know, is I mean, it's kind of like a titan in how do I say, Nintendo in general. I was trying to think, like, because he did a lot of designs of sort of things. Like he's known for obviously Smash Bros, but he's also known for I think he made Kirby. I'm not sure which part he was. Presumably, but I guess he's a game designer now I think about it, rather than necessarily a programmer or whatever. And he's been around for ages. But it's kind of crazy to think that he, like, with all his years of experience, I don't know how long he's done it for, but he's just like randomly making a YouTube channel, basically sharing all his wisdom for free to the world. And that is something very much to be commended, because someone brought it up best. So I just like opening his channel. Someone brought it up best. I can't remember, a random comment I saw where it's just like, oh yeah, especially because, or maybe it was in the video itself, I can't remember, because Japanese game devs tend to be quite cagey about the development cycle. I mean, is it necessarily very cagey, or is it just because the West are not so fluent in Japanese that maybe we don't see things? It's probably a mix of both, to be honest, but I don't know. But it is pretty crazy to just like have someone who's this absolute titan director, I suppose, of developer of video games, who's done it for presumably like decades now or something, just like out there sending all the information that he has for development for free, just like that. All the things that you learn, all the things over years which you can sort of take and learn from. If anything, it's really just like the abundance of information out there is insanity nowadays, isn't it? Information era and all that. How, like, it's like straight up impossible, I think, to even learn all the information that is out there. Because if you think about it, there's so many like university courses or things that you can just sort of take online right now. You can like see the lectures or whatever. You don't have the exact same help necessarily. Like you don't have the mentorship, you don't have the tutors or one-on-ones or the collaborative environment essentially, or access to other materials that, you know, the structure of like university might give you, depending on your uni, college, whatever place that you are, your academic institution that you're learning from. But the fact that there is so much information just out there readily for people to absorb, to get, to garner, to learn from, it's crazy, isn't it? I guess really the hard part is trying to figure out and sort through what information is, you know, relevant, I guess. What information is good and what one is factual. I mean, obviously it's quite easy in this case. I mean, Sakurai's made just an absurd amount of games, and is like sort of household name. And presumably he's not going on here just to sort of spread lies in his videos. And I don't know. Maybe he is. In which case, that's, I would say, a very big troll. One might argue. But yeah, presumably he's out here actually spreading like, well, not presumably, he is out there spreading great information for any sort of dev or whatever, any aspiring learning dev who wants to find out more about how to, you know, create a game, who wants to find out more about how exactly or what exactly the process for something might be. And I don't know, I guess it's just kind of crazy, isn't it? The amount of information that can be out there in the first place, and how almost weirdly readily available it is, and paradoxically almost makes you, not makes you, but almost makes people feel like less incentivized to do it, to get it right, to follow that information. Not because it's wrong necessarily, but more it's because it's like, oh, you know, there's now too much. Like it's like a analysis paralysis sort of thing. Like how I've got too many things which I could possibly try and learn. How on earth am I going to learn more? And the answer is you don't, because that's ridiculous. You can't learn everything, but you can have a try, I suppose, and learn some things. I guess finding a resource is always very difficult, but to be fair, there's also like large swaths of communities out there who are trying to get people into it and compiling all these really great resources and creating these really great resources all at the same time to be able to do things. Because it made me think of back in the day, you know, I guess I'll preface by saying that, as you know, people out there are getting like coaching for like video games that they're playing, that sort of thing. And I remember going to school once, secondary school, this is me always being a big video gamer. At that time I was playing like League of Legends or whatever, probably actually was playing ranked, which is a rarity to think about, but yeah. And then the much older, I don't even know what role he was in the school or something, but he was something like head of Key Stage 3 or something, which basically meant he was head of like the lower years in the secondary school. He's a very sort of comedic presentation who sort of very much leans into sort of like, I don't know how to say, like old guy persona, like with dad jokes or whatever, but he was a nice guy, all things considered. But he very much leans into these sort of like, I don't know, like Seinfeld-esque sort of style of comedy is probably how I'd think about it. Despite the fact I've never seen Seinfeld, it just sort of gives me that energy, you know, like, oh, what's the deal with airplane food? That sort of vibe, where you all just go ha ha ha, roll your eyes, that sort of thing, or roll your eyes and go ha ha ha. Sounds a bit more, you know, frustrating if I say roll your eyes afterwards, but yeah, he did like assembly, which is basically like a morning gathering where he would talk about some sort of story of, and I don't know, I guess it would be related back to some teaching from Christianity somehow, but it was about video gaming, where he was like watching the news or something and seeing about like these competitive video gamers who were getting like paid money to fight in a video game. And at the time, you know, he's doing the classic sort of boomer humor, being like, I don't really get it, and that sort of thing. And I don't really know if he ever came to a resolution on it. But of course, my opinion at the time would be like, I don't see why that's any different from any other recreational experience being turned into a competitive environment. Certainly it's weirder because the medium is much more newer and more unusual. And, you know, certainly has not many, you know, compared to sport, you know, where you can say doing sport keeps your body active and that sort of thing. Playing games oftentimes has a more sedentary effect. While you can say, yes, it increases your hand-eye coordination and reaction and that sort of thing. I feel like, you know, let's not ignore the fact that for health benefits, would you rather be out there like playing football or sitting in, or like, you know, playing League of Legends rank you for the same amount of time? But that doesn't take away from the fact that something is enjoyable. Like, something doesn't have to necessarily be perfect for you to be enjoyable, right? Or force people to get enjoyment out of it. But it did make me sort of reflect about it, because recently as well, I was like, you know what, let's actually look up some like sort of Valorant guides, just so I have like a better understanding of what I should be doing. Namely, that was like smoking things off, especially because I'm playing controller a lot more. And honestly, I like it. Sentinel controller, I like Initiator. I'm okay with Duelist, not my thing, as it turns out. So I was like, it should be good to learn better how to play spell smokes while I have a general like good idea. Like, I understand where I need to be flush, because then you have to, if people are pushing through on the enemy team, then they have like a ridiculous amount of angles to try and check through. You know, you want to actually try and block off these lines of sight from important areas to make it difficult, you know, for them to retaliate, etc., etc. I know these general overall concepts, but you know, I was like, maybe there's some more stuff I can learn about it. And you know, certainly like you can just search like how to smoke or something in Valorant, and it just gives you a ridiculous amount of videos. And you know, it was at that moment I was sort of like scrolling through being like, I don't know which of these videos are actually good videos. Not only good in the sense that yes, they teach you useful information, because I'm going to give a benefit of doubt that they all teach useful information, but it's like, how many of these are sort of the aim is to actually convey and teach us information? How many of them is the aim to, you know, say, get in views, making money, to sell a product of some kind, like a teaching service? And me as the rookie, the noob, who doesn't know the answer to this, is sort of like, I don't know which of these are trustworthy, you know, in that sense. I think trustworthy is like a bit misleading, because I'm sure they all give information in the end, you know, valid information, but how many of it is like valid information which is useful and conducive to me, or the best sort? Sorry about that little bit of a pause. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, it's like the wealth of information. I'm trying to discern the impossible discernment of, as a new person, as like a learner, of what is good and what is not good information to learn, to understand, to find out about. I'm not going to say it's impossible, because there are, like, you know, resources, people out there who've probably done the research on X thing, Y thing, to be like, yeah, this is good, this is not good. But again, you know, at some point the circle of trust has to begin somewhere, right? You have to trust in like one thing, right? To believe that source, to be like, oh yeah, this is a good source of information, which is good, says that this is a good source of information, right? And I suppose at the end of the day, you know, especially with like these Valorant like smoke videos or whatever, is really the best lesson is via just like doing it in practice and seeing sort of the consequences of it, right? Understanding what is good, what isn't good, you know, like in the case of smokes, you can just be like, oh yeah, you put that smoke down, and being like, oh, you know, now I realise the folly of my ways, because, you know, say you don't put it flush through the door, and you were watching it, and then they just came out through like a different side of a smoke than you expected or whatever, and you couldn't get that, I don't know, couldn't secure the kill, and then you'd be like, oh, okay, I see, maybe that's not such a good idea. A very basic example, to be fair. But yeah, I forgot what I was going to say about it. That's Valorant specific, but it's like learning anything sort of specific, right? I wonder if there is anything out there where really learning in theory is better than actually learning in practice, whatever practice, quote, quote, practically means in that context. And there probably is quite a lot of things. I'm probably just not very good at thinking of something off the top of my head. It's more so that learning in theory gives you sort of a space to fail, to ask questions, to understand before you go into the practice. So really they should be hand in hand, learning together rather than something that you're trying to learn separately, right? Now, I don't think that has an answer, nor do I think that necessarily should have an answer. It's a very vague, I can't even speak, very vague, not well defined question, right? So who really knows what can come of it? But anyway, the long and short is, it's been pretty difficult when you're a new person to understand what source of information you should be learning from, or should know. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe yes. Yes. Maybe yes. And it's the sort of thing where part of me is just like, how do you resolve that? But also part of me is like, I am also someone who's done a lot of learning and don't know the answer to these sort of things. How did I do it? I don't know. He's gonna just try it and trust it, I suppose, at some point. Sorry, I paused again. Yeah, how is it something you need to sort of figure out as a new person to any sort of scene? I don't know, you just sort of try it, I guess. At the end of the day, I suppose perfection is the enemy of good, right? Perfection's the enemy of many things. Good, great, awesome, okay, fine. Probably, you know, the answer's the same, and you start with a tutorial which may not even necessarily be that good or that informative for you, and then eventually you learn enough about it to be like, oh yeah, you can identify what is and what isn't something which is going to be a helpful teaching for you, you know? Which is, I don't know. Part of me is like, wouldn't it just be more efficient? Wouldn't life just be simple if we could just, you know, have this one unified, defined way, source tutorial, and then like people can make it offshoots from this? But you know, that's not really how it works. In a good way, mind you. It probably shouldn't work that way, but it's also the sort of thing where it's like, if only. Anyway, I guess I'll round this episode up here. I don't know what else I'm talking about. I've run out of conversation, but if you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been Dear Darling. Likes, comments, subscription, shares, greatly appreciated. Socials, Discord down below. Hope we see each other again, but for now, it's our farewell. So until next time, bye-bye for now.